Okay, still have a few people coming in. Just a minute longer. Okay, I'll go and give a slow start to this, giving everybody just a little more time to get in, get settled. Same time as last time, as all of our webinars. I do have Brady on here. John Litter is on here. Just ask questions through the chat or stop at any time. This is relatively informal. If we end up with a lot of questions, we may have to kind of focus a few things, but but he will yell at me if something is kind of important for me to stop and identify. But you can ask questions in the chat at any time, and he'll get you information as you ask. Hey, where's the link for that or whatever? Because a lot of what I'm going over is going to reference other material we have out there. Uh, and with that, I'm going to do a slow start here. This is all about end of year and ongoing reporting. So really sleepy stuff here. I'm sorry. We are doing all the fun stuff, and there'll be a couple of neat things that I'll kind of throw in here that are whiz bang cool new things or things that have been around for a bit that people don't know about. So, but most of it is really just the following items. So we're doing the end of year reporting. And a lot of what we crash into on the support side are questions about why the report isn't working. And we dig a little deeper, we find that the data is not there or something is missing. And what I want to do is go through the reports here, or go through this conversation here, really focusing on more of how we're going to get what we need to find money. That's really what this is about. We're all doing this for make bills and everything like that. But at the end of the day, there's certain things we have to collect beforehand so we can make sure that it's correct. In there, I'll add in a few other items that really will help you with ongoing reporting. And that's to help everybody on different parts of the business actually see how the business is running. So I won't be able to get real deep into the other part, but really focused on the money today. All right, so it's all about process. So this is the thing that nobody likes to talk about, but and this is true for the company here, or our company the same way. I don't like talking about process, but it's the one thing that we really have to be able to get into these items. And then I'll talk about common issues we see here. I won't go into all of them because we have kind of different groups of issues we see from folks as they're trying different things, but really, again, focused on the money part of this. Run through example project, just some examples on the process, kind of give us some details there. I like engaging the sales team. A lot of people want to basically throw this at the customer service team or the accounting team and then wonder why things don't quite work out. But we're going to engage the sales team for some of this as we go along. And this may work for some groups based on policy, and other groups may choose not to do it. So it kind of goes back and forth. But the main thing is we're trying to empower the service team and especially the accounting team to be able to find all the money at the end of the year and do reports. And then this will set you up real nicely for end and ongoing reports. I'll kind of point at a few of these. 1 hour is not enough time to do everything I'd like to do today, but I'll get into the major areas, and then if there are certain questions, I may deviate a little bit from the main plan here. So, all right, that's the agenda. Let's talk about process for a second, and then I'll kind of go through the details. The main thing here is we want to know what needs to be coded or put in OASIS. There's obviously a quote, there's obviously an order, there's obviously an invoice and a payment. And if any of those didn't really seem like something you're putting in OASIS, we probably need to talk because we have to have at least a quote, an order, an invoice, and a payment. And with that, we can do a lot of different reporting for the end of the year. Okay. And then there's certain things that have to be applied at certain times. I'll go through a few details here. And that really has to do with getting the data for the accounting team. And at some point in the process, that information becomes available. Kind of a classic example is a quote from the factory that locks in a price, the manufacturer quote. At some point, you have to collect that information, again, for downstream and making sure that the accounting team has the capacity to grab that information. Okay. All right, then who does the coding? In other words, who's going to put that information in there? Is it the quoters, the customer service team, and so forth? We'll get into that a little bit too. And then how do you audit your coding? I'm going to talk a little on this one as well, just so we can make sure that we have what we need in the system so we can actually move forward downstream on it. All right, and then do a little bit of an example there. All right, last item on here, and then I'm going to show some examples. Have you documented your process? And this is a tough one for us as well, and I know it's a big one. But really, if you're trying to report at the end of the year, and we're guilty of this as well, best to write it down, say we have to have these certain things. And then when you get that core example, just write it down somewhere so we can make sure that we know who's doing it and when. Because in a lot of cases, the accounting team is responsible for find the money, and guess what? The quoters had to put it in there. And if they don't have that information, then the accounting team simply doesn't have that capacity. But again, if you write it down somewhere and exchange that information, we can get a little bit better. So any questions before I jump in? All right, let's talk some basics. I'm going to start with the online version of Oasis, mostly just to uh, get some miles on it because, to be quite honest, I spend a lot of time on the desktop version. I'm one of the older ones in here, and all the new people actually do the new cool stuff. But let's go ahead and create a project real quick because I really want to talk through some basics here. And we'll just create one real fast, new project. And by looking at it in a different way, if you're using the desktop version, this also kind of helps say, okay, well, I haven't thought about that for a while. I just have muscle memory clicking all the way through. So online version looks a little bit different, so we can ask some questions. All right. So webinar 5, 9. Okay, good enough. Now, when we're going through all this, and it's going to ask me a number of questions, but one of the biggest items when you're starting to pull in a project and thinking about end of year, let's go ahead and start thinking about some of the other pieces of information that you might want to collect. And again, this should go in your SOP. And some of this data is going to have higher value than other bits of data. So an example is this a national count? And little details there. Do you want to collect that bit of information or not? Location and state or province, I'll say Cabot. I don't know how many Canadians we have right now, but obviously you have to account for that as well. And let's go and move to the next one. The other area where we're getting a lot of conversations with folks as well is on vertical market. Again, another piece of information you can collect along the way that may not be known up front, but at what point do you want to audit and make sure that piece of information on there? We'll talk a little bit about audits here in a minute. So when you first get a project, you may not know the vertical, but at what point do you want to require or at least make that best effort to get that piece of information? Is it right before the orders, right before the breakouts? Where do you want to do that? And again, by writing that down and saying, hey, we're going to do that at these different times, that'll help at the end of the year when you're trying to run the reports I'll show you here in a little bit. It'll really give you the data, and we can talk less about getting the data and more about how to turn the different reports to make them work the way you want.
Yeah, so that was nothing. Delete all that. It's not specified. We brought it to their attention because we.
Happens all the time. So cool. All right. Now quoter, mine isn't coming in automatically, but again, the quoters come in pretty easily. Customer service team, work groups should come in automatically as well. I'm going to skip that for right now. So a lot of this information is more the accounting side. The one element I will identify is more and more groups have multiple work groups or territories that they're in. This system's not set up quite the same way on that, but again, if you're servicing multiple territories, we want to make sure that if you have a combined or consolidated place where you're doing a quote or an order, that that is recorded. And again, when do you want to do that, and when is it important to pick up that information? Okay. I'm going to skip some of the details there. Specifiers, another area. And here's a trick that I learned a long time ago on specifiers. I don't have it in this system, but what you can do is require these specifiers to be put in and then do something like an unknown architect. And if you put that in as a entry instead of just wide open like I just did right there, then you can run a report periodically to audit that, and that'll get into some of these details a little later. The reason why this is important is in a lot of cases, your sales team is going to get credit based upon who they're calling on. So again, architect, engineers, distributors, and contractors, obviously those are the biggies for reps. Distributors are pretty easy. It's mostly just the contractors, but it's still the same thing. If I, in that case, well, it gets kind of different. But if you're putting in specifiers and you don't know who it is, you can run the report and say, okay, well, I need to go get that later. Okay. And then sales accounts, I didn't put any in. Let me go back. Let me just put someone in here real quick. Boop. And tried this one earlier. That'll work. Next. Okay. So sales accounts. Now, this is one area that I have a lot of conversations with folks on and has some really neat stuff later we'll be talking through. But the biggest item on this is when do you identify your sales accounts? Who's getting credit for that job? And that I'm going to show you different ways in which you can engage the sales team to help you audit this information. But the biggest question here is when does that get updated? Uh, and which point in the process? Is it happening before the breakouts go out? Is it before the orders go out? So some of those details are very important there. And that will help you downstream when you actually start doing pay commissions for account or other tools to actually pay the sales team. Okay. Next. Now, inside of projects and orders, you have the ability to put in your own search tags, is what we call them. They're search keys. The main thing is this is information you can then run on reports. A good example I have right here is whether or not we've done calculations. Did we happen to actually do calculations on it or not? And again, if you have in your SOP, we're going to collect that every time we do a point by point or whatever. You can get that in there. And there's a lot of other elements you can do on this. Basically, the sky's the limit as far as these various fields in here. And it gives you the ability to select it and identify how much money is associated with uh, the type of job that you're dealing with. You can also use this to control process within the agency as well, or um, identify little things like is Buy American Act required on this one or not. Just whatever you need on here, these are search tags that you can set up. And if you don't know how to set these up, just call support or send them an email and they can walk you through the details on that. Okay. All right, we created our first job. And what I would like to do here, again, is identify the data that we have to have and when to go through the process of collecting it will really be your SOP. And a lot of this will be pretty obvious, but what I like to do is identify when you have to have certain pieces of information there. Okay. If it's early in the process, what I don't want to require or don't suggest you try to do is collect every bit of information. Back on the specifiers, vertical markets, sometimes that information simply is not known early on. But as the project goes along and becomes more important, it becomes more important to get some of the information for later reports and also collecting the money we'll talk about here coming up real quick. Okay. So let me type in just some basic items here. And one of the items that I have on a slide coming up, I'll just kind of go through it right now. Talking with distribution, talking with Canadian reps, buy sell is a gimme because that's part of what happens. For some reason in the US, we still have a lot of reps that want to not use the resale technology inside of Oasis. That's okay, but do realize it just works real easy if you do that. So what I'll do here is I'm just going to create a simple little resale line on it and treat this as a resale company as we go forward on this. So catalog number, item one's fine, doesn't matter what it is. And all I'll simply do here is let me add in a little column here. Cost. And oop, didn't quite get it right. Yep, there you go. And sell it for 200. All right, cool. And I got several items on here I'm skipping because they're kind of active. But really, all resale is cost and sell. And what's nice about using the resale system inside of Oasis, if you're doing a real buy and sell of a product, is it gets real simple. You have a cost, you have a sell, whatever the difference is, that's what you're making off of it. And it also works if you're buying something for a job. So you end up buying something to cover a problem on a job. You can set the cost to $200 an item, sell price is zero, and process it through the system as well. Works fine. Okay, 10 more items. And notice I have my entry notes popping up and everything. That's kind of neat, but it's getting annoying for me. All right, so we'll do 150. Nope, yeah, that's good. $159. Again, I'm skipping a lot of pieces inside of Oasis as far as the price list and all the details here. The main thing I want to identify on this is three elements for accounting, and there's actually more, three primary elements just as far as pricing goes. Basically, what's the price of the item, the sale of it, and then how you're calculating earnings. Those are the first two. So in the case of a resale item, cost and sell, if they're accurate, it's going to calculate the earnings based upon the difference. So it'll be $100 in this case, earnings on this one line here. And then in the case of the commission item here, it's simply $159 at 10%. Or if you have overage, and again, I don't want to go into the gory details here, but if you have O-base set up, then I can add overage to this item and identify both commission and overage on that line rolling through. So back to my conversation here as far as your procedures on this, and that is if you're early in the project, you may not have a final price here. You may be 6 months or more out from identifying whether you're going to get the order or not. So things may be a little fluid, and getting this perfect, I don't think makes a lot of sense for a lot of folks in a lot of cases. But we're in your process. You need to identify that you're going to really make that happen. So is it just as you move the quote from a quoter to a project manager? Is it left to the quoter? Is it left to customer service? Those are good questions to ask, because if it doesn't happen up front, then the accounting team simply doesn't have good information to work from as far as how much money were we supposed to make on that job, and that empowers them to go chase the money out there. Okay. All right, so this gets the basics in the system as far as the first two items. Basically, what's the price and how much we're making off of it. But then there's other items that I really think are important. One of them is there a manufacturer quote on here? So whatever the manufacturer quote number is, if you put that at the line level, or if you go in under the manufacturers tab over here, you can actually identify the quote for the entire brand right there. So all the lines on the job. So again, it looks a little bit different, and I'm trying to do that just so you'll think about it just for a little bit. So if you're still using desktop, it's based on the same spot. It's just looks a little bit different because it's on the web here. Okay. Any questions so far? There. Don't have the thing yet. Okay. Details here, have that. All right. So I'm going to move forward with a few other details here just to kind of create an order and move that through real quick, applying some details here. So let's go ahead and add a customer on it. Again, I don't want to teach projects on this one. And let's go with that one, I guess. And let's go mark it as a winning customer. And after that, I can actually create orders. Okay. I'm going to focus on the resale here. Again, a little bit of what I'm seeing pretty consistently is people are afraid of resale for some reason. But in the area of resale, I'm just going to click on the resale order and hit next. So,
Excuse me.
yep,
Sorry,
go ahead.
Brian. It's Rita
Go
from
ahead.
Byte. I have a quick question.
Sure.
Can you go back to the quote? We are assuming that this is a resale opportunity. So
Okay.
generally when we send the quote for the resale opportunity, we add the freight cost.
Mm.
And then we would like to also add the estimated tax if they don't have California resale certificate. So my problem has been that when I add the freight cost, and I have the customer set up, as a tax account, it calculates the tax, the product plus the freight. Is there any way where the freight cannot be included when the system calculates the tax?
Yes. Um, so what you can do is, and there's a couple of questions I have that will kind of get in the weeds here, so I don't want to get too terribly deep. But question one is on your freight line in there. So if I put in a quantity one of freight, do you code a brand on that by chance?
It would be the vendor that the product belongs to.
Okay, so you're putting the vendor on that. Do you carry that over to the order?
Yes.
Okay, and
Well,
is
right
it
now we are not because the quote would be incorrect because it calculates tax on the freight. So once we do the order and the invoicing, we enter those manually.
okay? And this is a resale or commissioned order?
Resale.
Okay, resale. You have a lot more options with resale. Personally, what I would do is do a freight. I don't know if we have one set up here. We'll use that one, FF. I would have a vendor called Freight or FF.
Uh-huh.
You can actually, this will be a conversation with support, but you can set up the product type for that brand as having a tax authority where there's no tax.
Oh. And
So
is that available on the desktop?
yes, both. Yeah, that's desktop and it's a little deeper
Nice.
conversation, but that's exactly what I would do. I do have others do this as well. First time I really saw this was with heavy things like concrete poles and items like that, where you have to go and kind of quote some tax because it's a big number. And this is pretty much what they did. They put in quantity one, freight as the brand out there, and then you can actually go through and set up your tax accounts. This is taxes too, and it'll go ahead and tax the product, but it'll skip the freight line here. And then you don't carry the freight line over. There's some other tricks that I could get into that I'm skipping for right now. But then you go
Okay.
order it, and then when the actual freight comes in, you charge for the freight.
Okay.
Do a pass through. And then it gets into pass through, whether you're passing through the freight or you're going to charge the freight up front, taking the risk that is, going to be a little bit, more or less, try and make a little money on the freight. I've seen that happen too. But gets in the weeds real quick. Cool. Any other questions? That was a really good one. Made me sweat a little bit.
Mhm.
I like it. All right. Let me go ahead and remove my row. And all right, so let's just create a resale order real fast. And really, the main thing here is just kind of walk it through a little bit. I'll probably flip over to the desktop version of Oasis just to show some of this as well, just to be where people are probably working the most right now. But let's go and just create an order real fast. So we have that file, create POs. It's pretty much feels the same. It just looks different than the desktop version. But again, it kind of helps us it's helping me hopefully have everyone look at it a little different too. All right, so we have all resale items. It's going to take all the resale items, pull them together. And at this point, the PO number, I'll say, let me see. Okay, and apply. Ask the same questions on the desktop. Do you want to change the status, yes or no? And basically, what do you want to have, hold or fully released? Fully released is fine. All right, so here's our PO. And the biggest reason why I wanted to go through this again is to ask the question that we had just a second ago, and that is, where are you going to verify the items that accounting really needs to do their job? And in addition to that, what are the other items you may want to collect along the way to either pay your sales staff, that's important, or collect information that we can use I like at the end of the year. I almost hate using the term end of the year because I think reporting something you do all year long. That's just me. End of year is just kind of a focus point, so we can change direction a little bit. But if we do these things, then end of year reporting isn't more difficult. It's just more of a focus because you're doing it all year long. Anyway, enough soapbox there. So what do we want to look for? So over here, there is, by the way, the vertical market is going to show up on this in a couple of releases. It's something we've been working on, and that'll show up here as well. Just make sure that that's appearing or not. And outside that, sales accounts, who am I paying? And this is a whole conversation that we have with folks all along. Do you pull it off the specifiers? Do you have your own little matrix you put in? Do you let them arm wrestle or whatever, whatever that scenario is? Make sure that this is filled out and correct. And there'll be a few ways that I'll show here in a second where you can engage the sales staff to help you on this one. All right, did calcs. I guess I checked the green job thing. Anyway, the search tags over here as well. And if you're using this for reporting or compensation, especially on the calculations, I've seen that used to compensate someone who's actually over there doing point by points, or at least identify that we're making enough money to cover that position or the amount of time being spent over there. Okay. Now, back to what the accounting team needs on this. So let's go to items here real quick. Again, this resale is simple. It's just cost and sell. If they're accurate, this is what we're buying it for, this is what we're selling it for, then we're done. Now, obviously, if this is commission order, so I'm going to shift over to rep mode here for a second. Then we'll make sure our commission rate's correct, our net price is correct, and our sell price is correct. So basically, we're collecting overage correctly. And there's the overage split. So I've shown that a million times out there. I can do a commission order on that one, but anyway, that's the details on that. At this point, we just send the order or we do our standard customer service items. I did not pay any attention this time to the ship to, which again, that's more of a customer service, not really a reporting item, but that would be another thing to focus here. So, all right, any questions? I just want to get really into the thought process of what you have to do before you do reports, before I start talking about how to audit the reports and actually run the reports. Any questions? All right, just for argument's sake, I'm going to send this because I need to make sure that it is done. By the way, inside of online, you'd also have the ability to do internal changes, just so you don't have to send it to the factory. So I don't really want to mess with that. That's something many of you are probably familiar with there. All right, so let me just go back to the home screen here. And back to my presentation real fast because I lost my spot here. All right. All right. All that was really just trying to get everyone thinking a little bit as far as the processing. So adding a new quote. By the way, there's a search by project name. I do want to identify that was one of the cool things I wanted to do, and I totally forgot. So we have the ability inside of OASIS to do a search by job, and you do it all over the place. But there is something that we've had for a while that we've recently enhanced, and you'll see in the next update of the desktop version a really cool feature on this as well. But what you're able to do is a global search in here, and I'll say webinar. And this will do a deep search inside the database. So it's searching not only the projects and the orders, but also the attachments and a lot of other information inside of OASIS just to identify similar jobs. And it works a little bit different than the normal search inside of OASIS. So if you're trying to make sure you're not duplicating a job, that's important, or duplicating a PO, this is a place you can go. And it also knows let me see, the search works more of a ranking style as opposed to the soft searches that we still do inside of standard OASIS. So if I type in June, what you'll notice here, June webinar, it'll start pulling June up more. Actually, I did that kind of backwards this time. It remembered I did June previously, but notice it has more of the June web and webinar and similar names in it ranked higher, and then you'll start getting down to items where it has June in there. So it's more of a search engine type search as opposed to a database search. So anyway, it's real neat. The same thing exists inside of the desktop version of OASIS if you happen to have OASIS Online, because it actually utilizes some an index server that we have. It's hard to explain, but we have a server over there that indexes all your data, and it has the capacity to remember where things are at. So it works whether you're in the desktop version or the online version. You just have to have the online version have access to it. But once you do that, I can do the same thing over here, webinar, and it'll do a search on there, a ranked search. And if I do a June webinar, it'll also do a ranked result as well. obviously, if it has June and webinar in the right order, it has the highest, pulls it higher, and it does some other real cool stuff in there as well. So anyway, important detail to make sure you're not replicating the same quote or order, because that is another data issue that we see as well. And something else I also would like to suggest as part of your SOP is, where do you actually deconflict, duplicate quotes or duplicate orders, because it is an issue. Okay. All right. Any questions? Otherwise, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint here. Okay. All right. So search by project name. That's all I really want to do there. So we create a project, and then that unknown specifier, I already identified that. So we skip over that and think of other things that you need on a day-to-day basis from the project down on the accounting team. And then really this is all about writing your procedures on this. And then we'll get into the reporting side of it as you call in and ask questions like, well, how do I do this or whatever? Then we can actually pull it if we have that data. And then the other major area is before you send the order and other events in there. So when you do submittals, when you do breakouts, each one of those events is a good point to start asking the question, which data would we really like to have in the system at that point before we move to the next step? Okay. Before sending the order, before adding shipping and so forth. Okay. All right, some common issues that we see. Work group. I mentioned that a little bit. That's become a lot more important, especially with the groups that are across multiple states now. We see a lot of people doing that. And if you get the work group right, then I can tell you the volume running through a specific office. If it's not in there, I can't do it. Sales account, to pay the sales staff, we have to have that. Or if you're just simply trying to track their impact to the company, we have to have that information on there. And when do you identify that? And my recommendation on the sales account, by the way, is before you create the order, if at all possible, before you create the order. And there are some scenarios where that's not the case. Brands have become a big issue as well. Some of the conglomerates will allow you to send the order in however you want. But if you're trying to break out the volume you're doing with a specific brand, we really need that on the order. And Moser 2, which we'll get to in a little bit, is a great way to identify potential orders where everything's kind of went under the main brand name as opposed to being broken out by each individual brand underneath there, each sub-brand, if you will. I've already talked on resale reps. Please don't make it hard. It's so easy. But ask questions on it. It works pretty good. If you're doing 1 to 2 resale orders a month, yeah, may not be an issue. But we're seeing a good number of reps are just afraid of it, and I'm not entirely sure why. It takes a little bit to understand and kind of get into it, but it's really not that hard. I'll simply make a quick plug as I can. Put shipping on your orders because it opens a whole bunch of doors. It really enhances the customer service by catching problems on the orders. The list is long. I'll simply stop there. It enhances the accounting by catching problems. The factories do try to send back information as far as commissioning and quantities or what they believe is out there on that order status information. And it really allows the customer service team to catch problems before they become a money collection issue by the accounting team later. And also it enhances reporting a number of ways. One of them is through machine learning. I'll run through that here in a minute too. It's kind of a neat little feature we have in the system. So, all right. Those are our common issues there. All right. If there are no questions, we're going to shift to actual reports. So here we go. And I didn't come up with this because, truth be told, I'm an IT guy, but I work very closely with a lot of reps and a few distributors as well. The main thing that seems to be common with the people that I really talk to on this is being able to engage the sales team at some level. And there's argument on how much data to give them. So I want to show you some options there. So let's empower the sales team with information. And really what we're trying to get out of this, if we give them information, then hopefully they'll give us a little bit of information back for them to say, hey, this isn't right. I should have got more credit on there. Probably the first thing you hear, or something else is missing from the job. Okay. So let's talk about that. I'm going to switch back to good old fashioned desktop Oasis here because I'm better quicker over here in the reports work. So I created a little quote activity report here. I'll show it to you real quick, and then we're going to create it by hand. So this is the saved area over here, and it's just a basic what we call quote summary report. You can set these up to stored like this, where you can simply print them real fast. If you have the online version of Oasis, you can have the online version automatically send it to them. And it's just a quick way to get the information to them as far as what they're responsible for. So let's talk about how that might be set up. Let's go into projects. So go to reports and customizable quote listing. Now, the details are, clicked on that too quick. So the selection I think that's most important on this is let's go ahead and do bid date this month to this month, which is fine. But we're going to talk about these other dates here as well, because they may help you with some other items as we go forward. But as far as just a basic quote report going out to the sales team, this is probably good enough. All right. So the quote status on this, again, the status is important. You have to have something in here. But the question is, do you want the sales team to verify stuff before the order's in or after the order is in? And this is typically on the quotes, you want everything before the order is going, because there's another set of reports that we'll send out to the sales team to verify orders after they're created. Okay. Now, if I want this to go to just one salesperson, then what I want to do is go under internal, and then identify the sales account that is in there. I'm not going to select any because I'm kind of all over the place as far as the data in this particular database. But normally you want to pick Bob or whoever it is that you're trying to send this report to, just to get them the information that this job's out there, but also to get the feedback that, okay, yeah, that's correct, or no, we need to adjust something on the job. Okay. So once I do that, I'm going to hit OK. Group it however you want. That's just grouping it by customer or project name. Just select whatever you want. I won't select anything here, but that's pretty common to at least group it by customer or a contractor if they're contractor salesperson, distributor if they're focused on distribution, or one of the specifiers. There's different ways you can go through that. So anyway, I'll leave that alone for this time. Sort it by job name is real common here. I'll just do that this time. That's probably the most common one I see. All right, filter, you probably won't do that too much here. And then the layout, pick what you want on here. And this is one area where I recommend just play. One conversation I have with a lot of folks, or recurring conversation with a lot of people that call in, is whether to put earnings on this report or not, because it's kind of early. You might set an expectation that's not there. It's kind of up to you on that one. Now, one thing you may want to do on this is there are the brands. Obviously, that's a biggie. And what I like to do is do a row break on this. So what you'll see is a list of brands show up. And then I like to add in sales accounts. Where's that at? Sales account list. And what that'll do is that'll show everybody else that's on the job. What I'm trying to do with Bob or whoever I'm sending this report to is let that individual take a look at it and go, okay, yes, Susie did help me on that. Or no, Susie didn't help as much as she was supposed to, or whatever the case is. Of course, Susie might say the same thing. So we'll hit OK, and I'll let you sort that out, by the way. And then we'll throw it to a PDF, and we're good there. All right, so I have a simple little job right here, and I just wanted you to see what's possible on this report, just kind of a high level. Again, to send this out to the sales team, get them to think about this a little bit, and then bring back information. So they might come back with different results based on what you put on this report. So remember that point by point or did calculations on here. That may be one column you add in here. Let me show you how to do that. Well, I'll show you how to do that here in a second. But you can add that as a column. So if the salesperson gets that and says, no, we didn't do we didn't do calcs on that, or we did when it wasn't listed, then you get that feedback and information back on the job here and code it correctly. Brands, and then again, who's getting credit on this. Okay. Any questions? All right. So this, again, I can save this and say Bob's report and save it, because I almost forgot to did calcs. Let's go back over here. You'll see a column in here that says search key. search key did calcs. So I can add that in. And now that's part of my report. It just simply shows up as a column out here. Okay. And don't forget to save that and close. Now, all this can actually happen, like I said, manually by simply going under reports and then simply double click on Bob's. Where'd it go? Whoop. I forgot something here. All right. Oop, I was totally overlooking it. The stress of doing a webinar there. Main thing is it shows up here and then I can print it. There's a batch service we can actually do where you just double click and create a list of reports for it to run and send to Bob by simply double clicking on it. That's something we can ask support about, or you can simply use the online version of Oasis to send them out automatically. And that's again something you can contact support on. All right, so that is the basic report. Let's go ahead and start talking about the, let me see, talk through that. I'll show you a couple of Oasis online version items as well. One of them is the bid board and the other one's a follow-up tile. So the bid board's pretty simple. You can look at that. And again, the reason why I'm trying to show you a few online items is that really engages the sales team, on their mobile device, and they're able to just see what's there and real quickly give you information back on it. So in this case, if you set up a tile, and again, this is a deeper conversation, so I'm just kind of showing you the result. One of them is simply having a bid board tile. And again, on their phone, they can click on it and see what jobs they have. And then in the case of this webinar, they can go into this screen here, and this is what we call the sales view of the job. And it gives them everything that they need to know, mostly to empower them again, and hopefully give you feedback if something's not correct. So vertical market wasn't selected on here, but that shows up in the top who's on the job. The quoters, basically who the quoter is, and the work group details here, they're kind of important, which office is out of. The design team, so this would be your architects, your engineers, basically all your specifiers. And then you end up with a contractor section and a distributor section. This one just had distributors on it. Okay. And then again, controls, dig calcs, and all the details. This is a different job here. So, and that's the bulk of it. They also have access to bill material and a whole bunch of other information on here that's a little deeper. But the main thing is through that bid board tile, you can get the feedback you need by simply empowering them with the information that they need to review the job. Okay, so that's the bid board. The quote follow-up tile has been out for a little while now, and this webinar one that I have over here is kind of a good example. The purpose of the follow-up tile is if you send out a quote, we'd really like someone to follow up on it. It'd be kind of nice. And this really structures the post-quote process, and it'll actually follow that quote through the expiration date. Once the expiration date passes, it pulls it out of the set. And what ends up happening is the quote's going to toggle between the follow-up, which is where we're at right now, and the waiting. So these were, once we send a quote out, the theory is we're going to give them a little bit of time to make a decision, and then we're going to follow up in a week. Okay, so this is one of the settings in there. Every other week it's going to be a follow-up, and then the following week we're just going to wait on it. The main thing here is you then get a list of quotes that haven't become orders yet that the sales team's actually able to see and see what's going on there, so they can just click into it. They have their ability to do notes and see some details here. But the main thing I like about it is you can also click back into it and see that main screen here that has all the different details on this specific job. And this is basically the same thing that I was looking at on the previous one. It just has a different rank and a little different information on there. But this is still the sales view of the job. I can see the sales accounts, the internal, basically who the quoter is, work group, and so forth. Specifiers, contractors, and distributors, just a distributor on this. And they have some other neat items in here. So this is actually a quote. If I click on it, and I'll see the actual PDF that went out to distribution. So again, empowering them with information. And hopefully through that, we can get back some information on that. And that is, maybe we have another specifier that wasn't, their specifier wasn't on the job. So we can put that back on here so they can give you more information on it. Okay. So he takes care of those. Back to my deal here. So let's quote follow-up tile. Any questions? All right. Last item, last couple of items here. So summary reports. So that's the quotes. Now, once you get an order, I won't go through quite the detail on this, but it's still the same concept. We want to send something out or empower the sales team to tell us if something's not correct. And let's go with, I guess, the desktop version reports. And again, I'm going to go to customizable order listing. I select in usually the time from last week to last week, usually a weekly report that goes out. And let's see, last week I'll do that. And yeah, almost forgot. And the other thing you want to do, obviously, is identify the salesperson on here. So I want to send a report out to Bob and then have Bob review all of his orders. So I'll leave everything wide open here. And usually you want to group this one. I see it grouped one of two ways, either by customer, or you can actually go down and do it by project. Project name is real common. Same thing on layout. Anything you really want them to see that you want feedback on, the vertical market, the other sales accounts on the job. Probably could remove quoter and CSR because they won't care about that, the brand list on there and so forth. So by giving them the information that, hey, we just booked this order, they can start thinking about, okay, this is going to be my earnings later, so this is how I'm going to get compensated. But also they can give you the feedback on it. Okay. And I'll just do a real quick run on this one. Oop, didn't have anything for this past last week to today. There we go. More information. So again, by using project name, it's more the way they like seeing things. So it's grouped by the project, and then they can take a look at the different brands that are underneath each one of those. So nifty little report. All right, so that is as far as just doing it the old fashioned way. The gotcha on this again goes to whether we want the sales value on there. Most people are into that, and I'm talking to more and more owners that are actually allowing the earnings to show out there as well. And again, that can be a touchy subject right there because it may set an expectation that's not real. We're making 100 grand on that job. That's what I'm going to get for a paycheck, right? No, that's one reason why I might see that not being put in there. Okay. Real quick on the summary tile and the order goals tile, I'm trying to give just enough time for the more interesting stuff here. But on the tiles, we're trying to do the same thing, and that is give them information they are interested in. So goals, you just set a goal, and you're either going to make it or not. So they could be by brand, by customer, or other items in here. But mostly skip that for today. Just simply go into the summary tile here, and it starts out by showing them what's just been booked over, either today, this week, the month, or for the entire year. And we're going to give a trending line. So we're trending up this day over last year, or this week over the same week last year, or this month over the same point in time this month for the same September last year. So we're not showing all of September and trying to say we're down. No, we're actually showing that we're about halfway through, or about 3/4 of the way through September here. So we show by manufacturer, sales account. Okay, so if you turn that on or give them access to it, they can see other people that are on their jobs. But normally that's just down to that one individual. So it'll probably just be that one Bob in this case. All right. Customer, and then work group and order type. We don't really have specifier on this specific one right now because it gets a little interesting. But again, we're just trying to give them feedback on it. But then we can go back through and they can take a look at the actual transactions if they really want to get into the weeds here. And if you give them access, they can see the order in the system, and again, make sure that everything is correct, or simply look up other things they might be interested in, like whether it's shipped or not. So they can go to the items tab and identify any shipping on there. Okay. All right. So that is high level there. Now, We're finally to the accounting team and the service team out here. So what we're trying to do on an audit is we're trying to identify whether or not we coded the transactions and did we code them properly. Okay, so basically, did we put the order in and did we code it correctly? So I like starting with the simple stuff first, and that's Moser 2. This is actually one of my favorite ones. I could do it online or I'll just do it desktop. If I go to the report section, notice I'm on home, which by the way, in the online version, it's the same place. It's on home. And under reports, there's my order summary report. And on the desktop, it is Moser 2. So they're pretty much the same thing. I moved my window too quick. And what's nice about this report is it starts up and you'd say whether you want to see it by customer, manufacturer, why not do it by sales account? No account. And what's nice about that is now I can take a look and see where everything's at. So have I got everything coded to the right person? The other thing that's real nice, especially with the groups that have multiple work groups, is then you can actually have the columns by work group. So if you see an entry over here that has a specific work group or an office, and you know that salesperson works out of the office and there's nothing coded for it, then you start snooping around and find out, okay, why is Bob not being coded for anything out of the cab at our office? That's where he works. So then you can ask more questions. You do a search by Cabot as far as a ship to location in the orders and see what's out there or not out there as the case is. So Moser 2 is great by simply flipping the rows between customer, manufacturer, and account and work group. You can really start looking at the data and find out where the holes are at. And that's what I usually start as far as getting into the details here. What's nice on the desktop version also is you can click into it. We don't quite have this set up working online yet, but within that, I can see the transactions that make up that cell. So that $45 for that office and that salesperson, I can click into it and see that specific transaction. I can even click on it and go into that transaction. Looks like someone's in there. I'm gonna steal it anyway. And then I can find out, well, what's going on in here? Is it coded right? And then affect any changes. So maybe Aaliyah wasn't supposed to get credit for this, and I can change it real quick to put me on it, I guess. No, I guess Brady. We'll put Brady on it or Bradley. All right, save and close. Okay, as soon as I do that, then I can actually do just a refresh on it or an update on it, and it pulled that data away from Aaliyah, and now it's down to Bradley, I think. Yeah, that's where it went. Okay. Nice little tool. That's one thing I like to do again to audit or clean up the information. And don't do this at the end of the year. Usually the people that are doing this the most, they're doing it like once a month, sometimes once a week, just to make sure that the data is not getting coded incorrectly. And it's just kind of helps you with the process there. All right. Order summary reports. Now back on the order summary reports real quick. In there, orders, reports. So this is the same order summary we were at before. And again, if you're doing this like once a week, I can say last week to today is usually what I do. It's a little more than a week usually, but it gives me all the transactions that have been coded recently. And then I'll start adding in other items into here. Now, remember what I did on the quote? I basically took the search key and added it over there. So if that's important for my reporting or uh, just credit, let's see, especially if you're trying to credit somebody. So that's what I was trying to get back to. So if I'm trying to run a report where I identify the calculations out there, so we have somebody over there doing calcs, and we want to make sure that we're making enough money to pay that individual for their time. So I can add that to my report, and then that'll actually show that on that listing, just so I can just look at it real quick. I'll just do this online here, preview. And did calcs. It goes all the way through there, which is kind of nice. So you can see the coverage on it. Usually I'll change this report up and create it, but that's not really the goal for today. All right. Any questions so far? Okay. It's all about your SOP on there. All right. Now let's go find some money. Some of this is pretty easy. The orders and let's see, whether the commission order or resale order, I like to begin with the order backlog. And this one's pretty easy to go to. So if you're wrong, if I'm inside of the desktop version, I go to orders, I'll go to reports, and I can actually go to order transaction reports. This is basically a report builder for the customizable order listing. Once you use this a few times, what I find some folks do is they'll just create them by hand because it just sets some parameters and gets you going. But what's nice is I start with the order transaction reports. And I say order backlog. And typically for this report, we're trying to go long enough for the order to ship and then for the factory to get paid and then we receive our money. Or if you're doing a resale, the invoice to go out and let me see, the item to ship, the invoice to go out, and then we get paid. Okay. So either way, it usually takes a little bit for that to happen. So I'll do last quarter to last quarter. Usually it's like last year to last quarter, again, giving a little bit of time for all the processing to happen. All right. So let's go ahead and print this real quick, just get a little review here. And this is where I start trying to find out if I'm missing some money here. And what I'm looking for on this report is there's a sales credit on the order, and there's a billable amount. What that tells me immediately is nobody sent the invoice out because what will happen on the billable column here is it will count down. So if I ship and bill half of this, then it'll show 2,500 and some change as far as billable open. Okay. Receivable is how much money we received in. And this works whether it's a resale order or a commission order. It just works pretty much the same way. There's a couple of negative. Let me see. Go down that interesting one here. So on this one order here happens to be a resale. I won't say why, but it looks like we have a $3,600 order. The credit is $3,600. Notice the billable amount actually is zero. So it's fully invoiced. We have $432 receivable. So that is something for me to go through and identify what happened to the money. Why didn't we get paid? Did the customer not give us the money? Did the factory not give us money? What's going on there? So most people actually identify this group by group and just simply start knocking these down, cleaning up the backlog, and that gives you the bulk of the money you have due out there. Now, at some point, you just simply close the order because you're not going to get any more money from the distributor or the contractor, or if you're getting from the manufacturer a commission, then you'll end up closing that out. Now, we do have a report in there called orders written off. And what's nice about the orders written off report is if you end up closing an order because you're just tired of arguing with the customer or the manufacturer on this, then you close it and that gets it off your report so you can process everything. Okay. And then you can print it. And I only had one on here, but this order I closed, there's still $3,100 open on this. And it just remembers that report. So, or remembers that information. So you can go start asking some questions like, well, why do we, every time we have Bega orders or whoever the factory is, why are we not getting paid? Not saying Bega is good or bad or on that, but it does allow you to see where you're losing money. And again, it assumes that the orders have been correctly coded. Okay. That's probably one of the bigger ones right there as far as reports go. Any questions so far? All right. I'm going right up to the wire on this one. Too much content this time. So we have paid short. All right. So Pat aging on this one. So this is a report that actually lives online only because it requires one of our servers to run. And if you go under invoices and then you go under reports and Pat aging, okay, you'll see a whole bunch of entries in here. What it's trying to do is, if you look at September right now, it's trying to project into the future orders, and it's showing what has happened in the past. The best way to look at this thing is every time you put an order inside of Oasis, this report will start calculating when you're going to get money. So it doesn't care if it's a resale, it's a commission order, it doesn't care. And the way it does it is it takes a look at your shipping performance in the past, and then how long it took from the order entry to ship, which assumes it's going to be an invoice at that time, and then how long it takes for you to get paid after that invoice goes out. And anything that's to the left of the date we're at right now, so we're in September, anything to the left has been projected to have happened, but didn't. So is somebody sitting on an invoice? Is there a customer upset? Is there a shipment that's stuck because of parts out of China or something like that? You can go ask those questions. The way you do this is you go into 3G, click into it, and then you end up with orders here. In the order section, basically, this is an order that doesn't have an invoice on it. And it's saying that we should have already received $36 from it, but the only thing we have is the order, no earnings or no invoice at all. On these two, we have orders that have an invoice on them, and it's showing in total we should have gotten $6 on it. By the way, it does like to close out pieces and parts orders, so if you're not getting any money on it, it'll show it, but most people just kind of ignore it anyway. But I do have $6 on it, and if I click on it, I can see the invoice. And the payments I've already received $10 on that. So this is a really nice report. It's for as far as hunting for money, it's really great because a lot of people get tired of looking at stuff on the backlog report, and this really sums it down to stuff that should have happened and when. Because invariably on a backlog report, you're always trying to figure out how long it should have taken just in general for an item to ship and get paid. This does it off statistics, so it's usually a lot more accurate. So neat little report. All right, I'm actually a little bit over, so let me go ahead and kind of summarize here real quick. I didn't get to all the really cool stuff I was trying to do, the extra stuff, but the main thing that we're really trying to get through on this webinar is basically trying to get everyone to start thinking about progressive reporting. So instead of trying to cost at the end of the year, and then we try to resolve all these process issues, you just kind of have it and you're continuously running these reports. Once you get done, you can not only run the reports that I was talking about before in the methods I've shown as far as trying to get money, get the transactions coded correctly, but I can also take the Moser 2 report and actually run it year over year. I'll let you figure out how to do this, but hint, hint, I can put the rows as manufacturer, the columns as 5 years, and I can see basically the past 5 years of performance out of each brand, each customer, and other items that we have in there, and some new ones we're adding as well. And then order summary tiles is really trying to give that feedback to everybody, owners and salespeople and anybody else that's interested in the company as far as how we're doing and what our goals are. And then we get into win-loss. That's a whole conversation. I need to do a webinar on that one as well. And that's what is my quote hit rate by vertical, by customer, by manufacturer, filtered by $3,000 orders or $10,000 less or $100,000 or more or overall. It's really neat. And then what is my quote backlog? Yes, we do have a quote backlog in here as well. I won't show it today, but then how does that backlog look by manufacturer, by customer, vertical? How am I doing as far as filling the backlog so I can get orders out of it? So main thing for this webinar is it all begins with your process and what is your SOP? So sorry about going long. Any questions? A lot of information. I know I went fast.
There's none in the chat right now.
I think I made everyone bored. So, all right. I do appreciate it. I know I took a lot of information and tried to squeeze it in here, but if you have questions, engage support. There's a lot of information that's online or on our help site out there as far as each one of these areas. And give us a call. That's what we're here for. I do appreciate your time, and I'll stay in case anyone has any questions. But thank you. Thank you very much. Talk to y'all later. We'll go ahead and stop the recording.